their mace is the size of a medicine ball.
Mm.
The reality is peace has never been successfully attained through superior firepower. Okay, all that has done is encourage people to find another way to create a problem.
Okay.
Do you believe that there's any race that has come to a peaceful end?
Yes. I know for an absolute certainty. And again, there's a problem here with my trying to prove it. But you go back to the Lemurian race. The Lemurians were actually an ancient civilization on Earth. They were human. And they simply evolved to the point where they did have 100% global peace. There was no greed, there was no war, there was no fear. Yes, it was still death. Okay, and obviously sorrow that goes along with that, but they had no problem with food. And what brought them to an end, intriguingly enough, was not a war, it was a miscalculation. It was literally a curiosity thing that brought them to a close. But they're not the only race that has attained peace. The Pleiadians have attained peace, so have the Mohians. They've got global peace.
So, and how old are these races, do you reckon?
Well, the Mobians are several thousand years old. They're really not that much older than mankind. Okay, they're about 1,000 years further advanced than mankind at this point. The Pleiadians are millennia beyond that. But mankind is at a turning point right now, and this is why it's got the attention of the galactic worlds, because mankind is at that breaking point where they're either going to pull their head out of their sand or they're going to take society apart right down to the Stone Age again.
Yeah, it's either Armageddon or bust. If we as humans were created by them and they were able to attain peace, why does it take us so much longer? What's wrong with us compared to them?
Well, I can tell you the one thing that's wrong with it, mankind on the whole has is a genetic hiccup. They were designed quite literally for war. And technically they were designed by aliens. It's just the only reason they were designed by aliens is because there had to be the people that built the planet weren't from the planet for obvious reasons.
Well, that makes sense, actually.
Okay. So by that definition, certainly they were alien. But mankind itself was built because of war, which is why mankind is as aggressive as it is. But it doesn't mean that mankind cannot get along. Oh, I forgot the other race that has also attained global peace, which are the Vulcans. And no, I do not mean the pointy-eared, green-blooded people from Star Trek. There is actually a planet in this solar system named Vulcan. It sits right inside the sun's photosphere. And for those of you that are science buffs, you can try that again.
So Eric's pretty much correct when he says that we just haven't evolved enough. So does that mean that basically until we, is it going to take us almost eliminating each other to hit that necessary evolution point where we then become peaceful? That's
what we're actually trying to avoid. But I will tell you this, it won't be a war that way. When I said there was something happening that could wipe out billions, it's a funny little problem coming out of the middle of the Canary Islands. It's got nothing to do with mankind, except for mankind turning a blind eye.
So Jason's in the chat room wants to know, maybe humans were created to end all wars with others?
No, they were actually created to end a war amongst the original race that got here. Because mankind is the human genome is very, very easy to repair, replicates like rabbits comparatively. Mm-hmm. And the surprising thing that nobody was expecting was mankind's ability to tap into something that mankind calls zero-point energy. In other words, the ability that working together, mankind can change the functionality of the neural net, of reality itself. They can alter the odds. Okay, and this has been proven on a number of occasions. But it's that ability. That's why the off-worlders are a little edgy about mankind getting into space. Because between mankind's curiosity and that neat little ability that nobody else seems to have tapped into, makes humans a rather dangerous little race.
Well, I don't blame them. I wouldn't want them in my backyard either.
You know, it's kind of like a 2-year-old. You give a 2-year-old a bottle of nitroglycerin and see how much of a blast he can make. I'd recommend you don't do that.
Right.
You know.
I mean, and I've brought it up on the show before, but I mean, look at CERN, look at the dark matter and the other stuff we're playing with that we don't need to be playing with.
Well, in all fairness, you have to play with the stuff if you're going to build the bigger stuff. Like interstellar travel would never have been even considered back in the 1800s.
But with the state of humans now, if I was an off-world, I wouldn't want us in space either.
No. But in all fairness, there's more aggressive races in space. They just don't have that same punch, that same drive to succeed at all costs.
Don't you think that if we were able to make it into deep space, though, and we did encounter some of these peaceful races, maybe we would be able to learn from them?
Learn from them, yes, but the odds are mankind would shoot first, and that would end the learning curve.
Yeah.
I guess that's why we can't allow the governments to control space travel. Then,
no.
You know, like as most people on this show have already heard, I've got a great deal of respect for the military personnel. Not so much for the organization the way it's run, but for the people that go out there and do the work.
Right.
You know, because there's a phenomenal number that go out, they do what their job is, they do their dangest to protect people, and yet more often they're put in situations that are just plain wrong.
Well, I can tell you, me and Eric probably know that firsthand.
Yeah. Hands down. Okay, Gary, what's your first question for tonight?
Do you actually think, or do you guys actually think that real disclosure is coming soon? The reason why I say this, I've heard this since 1976 when I first started getting into broadcasting. So I just want your guys' feeling.
Depends on what you mean by soon.
Well, some people
I was going to ask what real disclosure is.
Well, the disclosure would be on UFOs and aliens. I've heard from some people saying it's going to happen in the next few weeks or the next few months. I've been hearing the same thing, since 1976. I talked recently to Steve Bassett. He doesn't feel it's going to happen in the near future. I just want you guys' opinion.
Well, the odds are not likely because of two major factors. Number one, if we're relying, in all fairness, full disclosure has already happened, is what people don't realize. There's already monuments that have been put up that have clearly indicated that this was an off-world event. There's even a neat little city in France that has literally passed a law about alien ships parking.
Right.
They literally have a law that says if a saucer-shaped or cigar-shaped UFO lands within city limits, they are to be detained immediately.
Well, and even here in the States, it's in, I can't remember exactly which book it was, but it was a manual that was issued out to fire departments on what to do in the off chance a UFO lands. And that's for fire departments, first responders. And I know Dave can go into the RCMP and what they're supposed to do. So if our governments can come out and say, here's what you do if a UFO lands, or if you see something,
I'm thinking we've already got the
say they exist.
I just want to say with the fire department.
Say again?
With the fire department one,
mm-hmm.
You probably don't want to get them wet.
Right.
Depends on which one. There's a few races, getting them wet is just not going to cause a problem.
So, Dave.
Yeah.
What did the RCMP tell you about who to report UFOs to? I like that story.
Well, I mean, you have to look at it. I had a conversation with an RCMP officer in 2017 in regards to UFOs, and I asked him point blank, I said, what's the RCMP protocol if a UFO call comes in? And I thought he was going to laugh at me. I thought he was going to dodge the question, and I was very actually proud that he didn't. His answer to me, which kind of stunned me a little bit, was in the air or on the ground. And I was kind of taken aback by that, because the scenario is this. If the RCMP receive a phone call from Joe or Jill Citizen saying that there is a UFO above my house, they report it to the RCMP on 911. RCMP immediately calls headquarters in Ottawa, who immediately calls NORAD in Cheyenne Mountain, Colorado, who disperses the two closest CF-18 Hornets to the area to try and intercept the craft. Now, if it's on the ground, he said he wasn't very sure, but he believes it's the same protocol. However, they will try and get the military out there as quickly as possible to cordon off the area. And you still go through the same protocols of going to RCMP headquarters in Ottawa, which is Canada's capital, and then that phone call then being made to Cheyenne Mountain in Colorado, NORAD headquarters. But here's where it got a little bit interesting. A few months later, I was sitting in a hot tub at the local swimming pool, and I'm sitting with this lady in the hot tub, and a gentleman there was asking me about UFOs, what I did for a living, and I was telling him all about the radio show and so on and so forth. And this lady was kind of getting a little bit eager, and you know how people get eager when they hear about these topics, and all of a sudden she pipes up, she goes, "Oh boy, I have a good story for you." And I was like, okay, whatever, you hear that kind of stuff. And then she pointed at her pendant. She goes, "Do you see my pendant? Do you see what I do?" And I said, "No." I said, "Ma'am, unfortunately, I don't have my glasses on." I said, "What is that?" And she said, "It's a buffalo." Well, the buffalo head is the logo for the Royal Canadian Mounted Police. And she goes, "I've been a dispatcher for the last number of years with the RCMP." And she goes, "Let me tell you, everything that officer told you is true. However, I'm going to give you further information." And of course, I love the juice. So I said, "Okay, not a problem." And she says to me, "When we get a call at dispatch about a UFO, everything else in the office gets dropped." She goes, "So I take the report. I then immediately, let's say there's somebody breaking into someone's house. I will take the report and I will put it on the staff sergeant's desk, who will immediately dispatch officers. However, if there is a UFO report, there is actually a special file place for the UFO reports to go. And if there is a UFO reported in, everything else is dropped, and that UFO file is now taken care of." And that caught me off guard, because here you could have someone breaking into the local supermarket or the local bank, and it doesn't rank up as high
as a UFO report. That immediate